want to talk to you about how to get a sourdough starter going. So I started baking bread quite frequently and got really into having freshly homemade bread at least once or twice a week. Probably this started, I'd say, maybe a month and a half or so before lockdown started in the UK, with everything that's happened with the coronavirus pandemic. So I realised it's the least of concerns, but I find it quite frustrating that I was stuck in the house and it's something that I couldn't do that I really enjoyed doing. So it was quite difficult to get hold of yeast. I'd say impossible to get hold of yeast. Very difficult to get hold of flour, but I was able to buy a big sack of strong bread flour from Costco. My problem was I had no yeast, so I wanted to get a sourdough starter going. I tried the recipes that I saw were available online, but didn't really have any success with them. So it mainly called for 100 grams of flour and 100 grams of water. And then to keep feeding it for a few days, and then when it starts to get bubbly, pour off half and then keep feeding it. And then after a while you can store it in the fridge and bring it out when you're going to use it, feed it for a few days, and then once it gets nice and bubbly again, you can use it for baking. I never really got past day 3. At day 3 I'd get like a weird clear liquid on top. It smelled quite boozy, it's hooch. And it's normally there because your starter's hungry. I tried then feeding her twice a day, I just wasn't getting anywhere. Then I came across some information about having your sourdough starter with a higher ratio of flour to water. So what has really worked for me is to have a sourdough that's got, for instance, 100 grams of flour and between 50 to 65 of water, grams of water weight. And that's really worked for me. So that's what I'm going to show you. I don't keep my sourdough starter in the fridge. I know a lot of people do, but for me, I bake quite frequently, so it just doesn't make sense. It would have to keep getting it out and really think ahead if I want to use it, so that's what I do. But yeah, a really useful thing to do is whatever receptacle you're going to use, I recommend probably a glass jar with a screw top lid or a Pilner jar, is to weigh it so you know how much your jar weighs in the first place. The reason for that is as you add flour and water, the jar is going to be heavier and you're not going to know exactly how much of that jar is your sourdough starter. So if you're going to use it in a recipe, say your jar weighs 600 grams and you've got, when you weigh it, it's 750, you don't know how much of that is sourdough or how much of that is starter unless you weighed it first and made a note. So this jar weighs 660 grams. So if I either make a note of that at the bottom of the jar or put it in a little piece of paper, keep it in a drawer, just so you know how much it weighs in the first place and then how much starter you have. It's a really handy hint. Right, so I've got 660 grams of jar. And then what I'm going to do is add 100 grams of bread flour. Now I use ordinary white flour. A lot of information out there says that wholemeal flour works best to avoid white bread flour because the bleaches in it affect the starter and it just won't grow and it won't work as well. I've not found that. It works absolutely fine. So, and in a time where I didn't really have that many options of what kind of flour I could buy, I was very relieved to find that just ordinary white flour worked fine. If you have wholemeal and you want to use wholemeal, then that'll be great. I do think that it probably would be easier to get it going with wholemeal. So if you have it, great, use it. If you have rye flour, give it a go, just use it. But I didn't have it, so I was a bit limited. So then what I'm going to do is top it up with water. Now, what you want to do is be able to bring it together, so you don't want like a ball, but it doesn't need to be super watery. In fact, the less watery, the better. So I'm going to put some water, just ordinary tap water, and then I'm going to weigh it and just see how it goes. So, okay, I'm going to get to about 50, give it a stir, see how it does at that. If I need to add more, then I'll add more, and I'll show you the consistency. Okay, so we've gone for 54. Let's see how 54 works. I'm going to get a fork because I think it will be easier to stir now. Knife instead. That's not quite coming together. So that does need more water. So we know actually how much we put in. That was 54. That's coming together, but still quite ball-like, so put a little bit more water in it. Let's take that out so I know exactly how much I put in. Okay. Okay. That's better. Giving it a good mix. It's a bit stiff, but it's fine. It doesn't matter if it's a little bit lumpy, it really doesn't make a difference. I spent so long trying to get all the lumps out and it really doesn't seem to affect it. So that's the consistency I'm happy with. It ended up being 65 grams of water. So it can fluctuate. You've kind of just got to go by feel, right? So with this is the consistency at the minute. And what I'm going to do is just pop the lid on loosely, because as it develops, it will start to release gases. Not so much of a problem now, but this one's actually worked quite nicely because it can still be held on fairly securely, but it's still not going to be tight, so a little bit of gas should be able to escape. So what I'm going to do, tomorrow I'll go back to it and I'll add 100 grams of flour and then between 50 and 65, just give it a stir, see what works, and then I'll document each day and see how we go from there. By about day 3, I will expect it to start growing after a feed, and it's quite a cool thing to see. So let's wait until tomorrow. Magic, woo, tomorrow. Thank you.